understanding conflict and violence. So, for our learning outcomes, after the session, the students are expected to discuss the ABC of conflict, identifying the cause or causes of such conflict using ABC, and analyze conflict using ABC. First, what do you mean by conflict? Conflict analysis is the process of examining and understanding the reality of a conflict from various perspectives. It describes the systematic study of the profile, causes, actors, and dynamics of conflict with the aim of gaining throughout understanding of what is going on. Without good conflicts analysis, we cannot answer the questions that are the cornerstone of a conflict-systemic approach. The ABC conflict is a triangular assessment tool to identify three major components of conflicts such as the attitude, behavior, and the context or situation affecting the conflict. And in a conflict, the violent behavior we see has its own roots in people's attitude and political economic context. The ABC triangle is a simple framework for exploring the impact and cause of conflict. You should complete the one triangle for each of the major groups involved in the conflict. The question that can be asked using the triangle are: conflict, the violent behavior we see has its roots in people's attitude and the political economic context.
So, this is the triangle that said, at the top of the triangle are attitudes, which are like the feelings and thoughts that people have deep down. These feelings can lead to conflict. For example, fear of losing power, resentment about historical wrongs, negative stereotypes, ethnic or religious hatred. These attitudes are like the seeds of conflict, shaping how people see the world and interact with each other. Now, let's take a look at the other side of the triangle, which is the behavior. This is what actually people do because of their attitudes. For example, riots, bombings, mass imprisonment, or denial of human rights. These actions are like the branches of the tree, visible sign of underlying attitudes fueling the conflict. On the other side of the triangle is the context, which is like the background setting of the conflict. As set on the example, things like unjust land ownership, lack of jobs, opportunities, scarce natural resources, unequal distribution, etc. These inequalities can create tension and make conflict worse, but by understanding how attitudes, behaviors, and contexts are all connected, we can work towards finding solutions that address the root causes of conflict and promote peace. This is discussed by Schilling 2012 and Rachar and Mason 2005.
Lesson 6: Understanding Conflict and Violence.
Now, let's discuss what conflict tree analysis is. The conflict tree is a graphic tool using the image of a tree to identify and sort key issues in a conflict. The conflict tree offers a method for a team, organization, or group to identify the issues that each of them sees as important in a specific situation, such as the causes, which is represented by the roots, core problem, which is represented by the trunk of the tree, and lastly, the effects, which is represented by the branches of the tree. The conflict tree is a visualizing and sorting tool. The tree visualizes the interaction between structural, manifest, and dynamic factors. The roots symbolize structural static factors. The trunk represents the manifest issues, linking structural factors with the dynamic factors. The leaves moving in the wind represents the dynamic factors. Dynamic factors include the form of communication, escalation level, relationship aspects, and etc. Working with dynamic factors involves a short time horizon. Reactions to intervention are quick and at times unpredictable. Examples are diplomatic interventions, or multi-track conflict transformation, dealing directly with the form of interaction between the conflict parties. Quick money is often more important than big money when addressing dynamic factors. Next, we have manifest issues. Issues are what conflict parties want to talk about the topic of the conflict. Structural factors. Root causes are the basic reason of the conflict. They are difficult to influence in a short period of time basis if they are avoided. However, the conflict may pop up again later. This is the typical area for development cooperation, long-term involvement, and prevention of structural violence. The purpose or goal of conflict tree is to stimulate discussion about the causes and effects of the conflict. This helps the group to achieve consensus and core problem, assist groups in taking decisions about priorities for addressing issues, and relate causes and effects of a conflict to each other. Conflict tree is used with a group having difficulties in agreeing about the core problem in the situation and with a group who needs to decide about which issues of the conflict to address or prioritize.
So here are the diagram of an example of conflict tree. So as you can see, we have three parts of here. So first we have effect, main problem, and lastly causes. So as you can see, the causes are represents as roots, where we can see here that causes is aligned with corrupt political leaders, freedom and equity, current constituency, unequal development, and unjust law. And the main problem represent as the trunk of the tree. And as you can see, the effect that represents the branches are fear, looting, hatred, suspicion, unfair representation, and even killing. The purpose or goal of conflict tree is to stimulate discussion about causes and effects of conflicts. It also helps groups to achieve consensus or yung tinatawag natin na pagkakaintindihan on the core problem. And it also assists groups in taking decisions about priorities for addressing issues and relate causes and effects of a conflict to each other. And conflict trees is used with a group having difficulties in agreeing about the core problem in their situation, and with a group who needs to decide about which issues of the conflict to decide about which issues or conflict to address priority, about which issues of the conflict to address the priority. And I think that's all for chapter 5, which is the ABC conflict, and chapter 6, which is the tree analysis. And lastly, thank you so much for watching and the allocated time. See you next video.